Howdy everybody, it's Angelo from Daily Vitamoves, and welcome to the first video in a series we're doing on how to create healthy shoulders and rotator cuffs. So the shoulder joint is very mobile. We can move it in many different planes and directions, and the disadvantage is that it can be more susceptible to injury. So our hip and shoulder joints are both ball and socket joints. Our hip joint has a little bit more bone surrounding the ball of our joint, so it can be more supported as it moves. Our shoulder joint, being more mobile, has a more shallow cup, and so when we move the shoulder joint, it relies on the joint capsule and rotator cuff muscles and all the surrounding muscles and joints for its proper function. So if you do a lot of work that requires you to lift things overhead, or you engage in sports that require you to throw things like tennis or throwing a frisbee or baseball, or maybe you carry your child on one arm, that sustained contraction can all contribute to imbalances and dysfunctions of our shoulder joint. So before we do any specific exercises for our rotator cuff muscles, we do want to address these bigger muscles and surrounding joints that play a big part in how our shoulder joint works. The first thing we're going to address is these muscles that will tend to keep our shoulders rotated forward. So we're going to address that today. Let's get to it. Okay, to get more extensibility and movement through the front of our shoulders, we're going to come to a wall, and I'll show you a quick overview here in a sort of lunged position. And my hand is going to be pressing forward for 5 seconds, and I'm going to be trying to lift it back for 5 seconds. Okay, so here are the details. You're going to come into sort of a wide front stance, and your arm is going to be about shoulder height. Okay, and then before we do any movement, the hand is actually going to be facing, the fingertips are going to be facing backward. You can experiment with different angles here, but I'm going to suggest doing this way because that gives a little bit more external rotation or outward rotation in our upper arm bone, in our shoulder joint. So with our fingertips facing backward, hand on the wall here, which is towards you, our front stance here, we're going to think of lunging forward, holding that position, and then I'm going to think of pressing my hand forward this way for 5 seconds, and then trying to lift it back for 5 seconds. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I'm showing you that because you're not going to readily see that when I do this movement here. So we're going to take a front stance. My body's going to be upright. I'm going to come into this lunging position. Okay, so I'm actually giving a little pressure in this back leg, trying to push forward. Okay, you'll notice your glute will gently contract here. You can play with the amount of contraction that you want. Just be careful at first not to overstretch the front of your shoulder. So as you come forward and push, you're going to come to a position where you feel a little gentle stretch here, and then that's where I'm going to try to be pushing my hand forward on the wall. So I'm not going to be moving anywhere, but I will feel a stretch and then a contraction through my pecs here. Okay, we're going to hold that for 5 seconds and then relax, and then come into a lunge again. And then this backward contraction is a little tricky. I'll show you from the back here. So in this position, I'm going to be trying to move my arm backward, but the main thing I'm going to be trying to do is bring this shoulder blade down towards this hip. Okay, so from here, I'm going to lunge forward. Okay, I'm going to press with this back heel so my glute's contracting, and then I'm going to try to bring this shoulder blade down towards this hip. So as I'm leaning against the wall, I'm trying to reach this arm back, hold that contraction for 5 seconds, and then relax. So you want to go back and forth between those two movements for a few repetitions. All right, so that's it. In the upcoming videos, we'll be talking about other things we can do to keep our shoulders healthy. If you know someone that can benefit from these shoulder exercises, please share this with them. Here's to making moves that positively impact your life. See you next week.